Hello and good evening. I'm Gautam Roy and this is World Today, the show where we get you all the day's updates from all different corners of the world. We'll be talking about and keeping a special focus on how Austria has gone down into lockdown again because of rising surge of COVID cases, which is of course a feature that is now engulfing the entire Europe, and a lot of worries have been expressed about that as well. We'll be keeping a special eye on that with special guests, but there's a lot more on World Today itself. Let's get on with it with the headlines. Austria goes into full lockdown in a bid to curb sky-high rates of daily COVID cases amidst protests against the restrictions. Rioters also clashed with police over restrictions in cities in Netherlands, Belgium and Croatia over the weekend. Daily cases in India at the lowest in 538 days. India's vaccination drive in door-to-door mode. Nearly 117 crore doses administered. Over 21.64 crore doses still available, with states and union territories for administering to beneficiaries. The Sudanese military restores Prime Minister Abdullah Hamdok to his post less than a month after staging a coup in face of fierce protests by pro-democracy agitators. The military also promises to release all political detainees. Nicolas Maduro's socialist ruling party claims sweeping victories in the first elections to include Venezuela's top opposition parties nearly 4 years. Maduro's allies won 20 out of 23 gubernatorial offices across the country in an election with a low turnout of 41.8%. In sports, Lewis Hamilton wins the Qatar Grand Prix. The defending and 7-time champion Hamilton claims his 7th season win and 102nd overall. And Chinese tennis star Peng Shuai's video call with the president of the International Olympic Committee does not address or alleviate the Women's Tennis Association's concerns. And let's first begin with the big news of today's World Today, which is all about how COVID cases are rising in Europe, forcing more and more restrictions to be put in place against protests by people. Well, thousands of protesters marched through Vienna on Saturday after the Austrian government announced a nationwide lockdown beginning Monday, that is today, to contain skyrocketing coronavirus infections. The Austrian COVID-19 lockdown, which began today, and it has come as average daily deaths have tripled in recent weeks, and hospitals in heavily hit states have warned that intensive care units are reaching capacity. The lockdown will last at least 10 days but could go on up to 20. That's what officials are saying. People will be able to leave their homes only for specific reasons, including buying groceries, going to the doctor or to exercise. The government is also making vaccinations mandatory starting the 1st of February. Not quite 66% of Austria's 8.9 million people are fully vaccinated, which is one of the lowest rates in Western Europe. And with the recent surge in the COVID-19 infections in Europe, protests have been taking place all over the continent. Riots broke out in cities across the Netherlands on Sunday, the third night in a row that the police clashed with mobs of angry youth who set fires and threw rocks to protest COVID-19 restrictions. Unrest was reported in locations including Leeuwarden, Groningen as well in the north, the eastern town of Enschede and Tilburg in the south. The protests were sparked by opposition to government plans to restrict use of a national corona pass to people who have either recovered from COVID-19 or have been vaccinated, excluding those with a negative test result. The Netherlands reimposed some lockdown measures on its 17.5 million population last weekend for an initial 3 weeks in an effort to slow a resurgence of the virus, but daily infections have remained at their highest levels since the start of the pandemic. Meanwhile, around 35,000 people took to the streets in Belgium's Brussels on Sunday to protest against restrictions imposed by the government in the fight against COVID-19 pandemic. There were some confrontations between demonstrators and police, with protesters throwing smoke bombs and fireworks. However, according to the police, the situation got normalized later. Belgium had tightened its coronavirus restrictions last week, mandating wider use of masks and enforcing work from home as cases rose in the country's fourth COVID-19 wave. And later, the protests also turned heated as demonstrators clashed with the police, and in retaliation, the police used tear gas and water cannons to disperse thousands of protesters demonstrating in Brussels against COVID-19 restrictions. The measures were re-implemented due to a spike in COVID-19 cases. Footage posted on social media showed protesters running away from heavily armed police officers and vehicles in the Belgian capital. Some protesters responded by smashing windows of police vehicles. As of Sunday, Belgium recorded 26,568 total deaths due to the coronavirus, with 1,581,500 total cases since the start of the pandemic. Belgium has one of the highest cases per capita rates in the European Union, besides only the Baltic and former Yugoslav nations and Austria at around 1 per 100 people over the past 14 days. Also, with anti-COVID-19 restriction protests taking place at several places in Europe, Croatia is on the crossroads of Central and Southeast Europe. Around 15,000 people protested against the government's coronavirus measures in Zagreb on Saturday. There have been daily demonstrations over recent weeks, but Croatians from all over the country gathered to voice their discontent on Saturday. From Monday, only people with COVID-19 passports are now able to enter government and public buildings in Croatia. Excuse me. Referring to the passports restriction, protesters said that the measures divide them into citizens and non-citizens. Furthermore, the U.S. Transportation Security Administration expects to screen about 20 million air passengers during the busy Thanksgiving travel period. The TSA said airport security checkpoints nationwide will be busy in the period that starts Friday, 19th of November and runs through 28th of November, and that passenger volumes may be very close to pre-pandemic levels this holiday. Delta Airlines said it expects to fly up to 5.6 million passengers from Friday through November 30th, nearly 300% over 2020's 2.2 million Delta passengers for the period, but still below the 6.3 million passengers during the same period in 2019. Excuse me. United Airlines said it anticipates more than 4.5 million passengers during the Thanksgiving travel period, about 88% of the 2019 volume. United said it was adding about 700 domestic flights for Thanksgiving week and would fly 87% of its 2019 domestic schedule in November. Last week, the Biden administration lifted travel restrictions for fully vaccinated air travelers from 33 countries, including China, South Africa, Brazil, and much of Europe, including India. And if you go down under, in the latest update, Australia will allow foreign visa holders to enter the country from the start of December, Prime Minister Scott Morrison said on Monday, as it takes further steps to restart international travel and support the economy. Australia shut its international border in May 2020 and allowed only a restricted number of citizens and permanent residents to enter in a bid to curtail the spread of COVID-19.
From the 1st of December 2021, fully vaccinated eligible visa holders will be able to come to Australia without needing to apply for a travel exemption. Eligible visa holders, including skilled and student cohorts, as well as humanitarian temporary working holiday maker and provisional family visa holidays.
Speaking further, the Australian Prime Minister said that from the 1st of December 2021, relaxations will be scaled up to allow vaccinated tourists from South Korea and Japan, vaccinated students, business visa holders and refugees to arrive as well.
From the 1st of December 2021, Australia will also welcome back fully vaccinated citizens from Japan and Korea, Under these arrangements, citizens of Japan and Korea who hold a valid Australian visa will be able to travel from their home country quarantine-free to participate in that program where states and territories are providing that opportunity without needing to seek a travel exemption.
Now, if you contrast that, India continues to witness improvement in COVID-19 situation. The recovery of 12,510 patients in the last 24 hours has increased the cumulative tally of recovered patients to 3,39,03,547. India's recovery rate now stands at 98.31%, which is the highest since March 2020. Sustained and collaborative efforts by the centre and the states and union territories continue the trend of less than 50,000 daily new cases that are being reported for 148 consecutive days now. 8,488 new cases were reported in the last 24 hours, which is the lowest in 538 days. The active case load presently stands at 1,18,443. Active cases presently constitute 0.34% of the country's total positive cases, which is lowest since March 2020. The testing capacity across the country is also being expanded further and further. The last 24 hours saw a total of 7,83,567 tests being conducted. India has so far conducted over 63.25 crore cumulative tests. While testing capacity has been enhanced across the country, weekly positivity rate at 0.93% remains less than 2% for the last 59 days now. The daily positivity rate reported is also 1.08%. The daily positivity rate has remained below 2% for the last 49 days and below 3% for 84 consecutive days now. Now, a lot of the reason why India is right now not witnessing any COVID wave, the numbers are going down, is because of the vaccination thrust that has been given to the battle against COVID-19. And if you look at it, how things stand right now, 22nd of November, more than 131.05 crore doses have been supplied to states and union territories. That number, of course, then connotes that on this date itself, 116.87 crore doses have been administered nationwide as well. Again, if you talk about the same date, nearly 21.64 crore vaccine doses are still available with states and union territories that can be given further on. Same date again, if you look at what's happened, well, 32,99,337 doses have been administered in the last 24 hours. Now, India's first dose coverage stands at 82%. And if you look at the second dose coverage, which is the final vaccination, fully vaccination, the status there is 43%. 43% of the eligible recipients are fully vaccinated in the country. Now, India began its nationwide vaccination drive on the 16th of January 2021, just this year. And the vaccination drive began with shots being given to healthcare workers. Then India incrementally scaled up the drive to include frontline workers and different age groups. And India is now in an intensive phase of its vaccination drive. Door-to-door vaccination campaign, which is Har Ghar Dastak, is being carried out. And the government's goal is to vaccinate all eligible Indians by the end of 2021. So that's how things are going right now as far as this entire drive is concerned. But let's turn focus onto what is happening in Europe and contrast that with India as well. We have Anil Kumar Truganath, former senior diplomat, with us to talk about it. This situation in Europe, the way we've seen Austria go back to full lockdown and restrictions being imposed in several other countries, even Germany now thinking about imposing another lockdown, and people protesting against it. It is quite a tenuous situation. How do you think things will go from here, Anil Truganath?
I don't hear you actually.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, now it's better.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask you, in terms of the way things are going in Europe and a lot of these countries, Austria in full lockdown mode, restrictions being imposed in Netherlands, in Brussels, in Belgium, and even Germany thinking of lockdown. How do you think things are going to go from here? Because already people have been protesting.
I think in Europe, as you know, was one of the first areas, started with Italy and some other countries and the US, where they had the first incidents as well as the expense of the COVID pandemic. And right now, what I feel is that this is probably the fourth or fifth wave in several countries that is going on there. And most of the people have really developed this kind of something called pandemic fatigue. And what one has seen is even though they've been vaccinated, as you mentioned, about 67%, but at the same time, the people have not really adhered to the other thing. Mere vaccination is not the solution. I mean, you have to continue thereafter with masking, with others, and you have seen all these reports that you have shown, not a single person is wearing a mask. There is no social distancing at all. So therefore, they've been asking for it. And now when the governments are trying to impose some kind of restrictions, especially with regard to their movement into the public places to avert any further spread of the virus, the people are protesting. And now they are saying this is a discrimination. I think that people are becoming a bit unjust because this is a pandemic. It will not just go away like that. There have to be comprehensive measures, comprehensive way of looking at it that has to be done. The problem is that now also the holiday season is beginning. People will be traveling more and more, and now these restrictions coming at this time, and the people not thinking that the vaccination has done much good to them, and therefore they are not convinced. And I think that is where there is a little bit of a leadership kind of a problem, which has come that I have heard that in Austria, for example, the most popular opposition party, the party has joined the protesters.
Right.
So when the politicians are divided, but that is the kind of issue that they are going to face now, how to convince people to stay indoors. And it is, of course, as 1.5 years has gone by and we have seen what is happening. So there is it's sort of an indiscipline and the people's inability to adhere to the norms that has caused it. And it has repeatedly caused the problems in European countries and even in the US for that matter. So we are seeing that in these countries, and there, of course, we have seen from the very beginning that during the pandemic, most of their infrastructure really crumbled. I mean, there was nothing, there was no planning, it seemed. And today also, again, they are fighting with the public opinion. I mean, that is where India has done extremely well, and you have given those numbers, 116 crores. I mean, that is something amazing. Not only ourselves, but also provided to the world. And we are, hopefully, we'll vaccinate all our population. But today, as you know, in most of the Western countries, now they have started the booster dose thing.
Yes.
So that there is a immunity problem also is growing. There is a waning immunity, as they say. So that is something that is going to cause a bigger problem in Europe, and you will see more lockdowns and more shutdowns of the economies. And again, once again, we are running into that vicious cycle.
Yes, but in a lot of these European countries, the rate, the percentage of people, eligible people who have been vaccinated has also plateaued because of perhaps being the other lot being anti-vaxxers. And we've seen how in the US, US President Joe Biden has again said that this pandemic is now a pandemic of the unvaccinated. So there is that to take into consideration as well. And then, of course, restrictions being imposed on those who are refusing to get vaccinated. That is also something that we're seeing emerge across the board from not just Europe, but in different countries in the world as well.
You are right, absolutely. The vaccine hesitancy has been one of the biggest problems in this time. And we have seen it. There are all kinds of theories and misconceptions that are being circulated about the vaccines. A large number of people, even such as religious groups, have been spreading canards about this. We have seen several politicians coming out. A lot of people are demonstrating without any, and some comments, if it does not spread the vaccine, they consider it that the vaccine was ineffective, and many of them have not developed this confidence. So I think to some extent, even the leadership in these countries are also accountable for not being able to convince their people that vaccination is very important and it needs to be done, and it is actually providing the benefits to them. Now, WHO, as you know, has said that Europe is the epicenter today, and it is because of that. Like Russia, for example, is facing one of the biggest surges. Only 37% people have been vaccinated there. Imagine.
Yes.
That thing Russia has created its own Sputnik. People don't seem to have a lot of confidence in these vaccines. So this is something that we are facing. And secondly, from AstraZeneca to Pfizer, now the immunity time period is also varies in these vaccines. So one doesn't know. I mean, if you say that the booster dose is necessary now, they are starting. So it shows that the people are thinking that it is a commercial proposition. It is going to continue forever. Every year you will have to get that. So those are the kind of theories that are moving around. But as I said earlier, that the mere vaccination is not going to help. Because as long as there are 40%, 30% population which is not fully vaccinated, there is a chance of a spread, which is very common. And then when the festivals come, I mean, we have learned from the mistakes, I guess, during the second wave, which was one of the worst for us, but we recovered very fast. And the people have been vaccinated, as you know. I mean, it's every day 32 lakhs or something people being vaccinated is a very big deal.
Yes.
And so I guess that this is something has been lacking there. Then you need, I think, a leader with some charisma, and none of these countries have that.
Yes, that does seem to be the problem. The will to convince people that they need to get vaccinated. The other issue, of course, is that it's getting colder and colder over there, and more people perhaps need to huddle indoors, and they're probably not taking the kind of precautions that they should in terms of social distancing and wearing masks, and which is why you're getting more and more such cases.
Well, that is also true that it's not only winter. The Europeans generally like outdoor lives, that is there, and they want to have the freedom that they adhere to very often. But there are several misconceptions, especially during these COVID times. I mean, if you want to get past this particular problem and this particular timeline, then you got to adhere to all the regulations, which they are not. In fact, I saw even the policemen in your reports, none of them is wearing a mask. Now, how do you control it? I mean, basically. So that's why the people are not convinced, and they are saying that the wave of vaccine, of pandemic or incidents of the COVID is happening over and over and over again. Now, if it is the fifth wave, you can imagine that the ordinary people, they are not convinced. And so I guess it will take a lot of arguments and convincing for the governments to do. Merely just saying that we are going to close down, lock down, I think that will create a bigger problem, and people are not adhering to it. I mean, the lockdowns has happened, as you know, in Austria or in Germany or different places, Netherlands you have talked about, and we are seeing the people on the roads, they are just defying the law. So it will be very difficult, for these countries to do that unless they continue with a holistic kind of an approach. I guess that they have already missed some timelines, but they need to do it.
And the contrasts and contradictions are even more this time around at this juncture, because if you see that restrictions are being imposed in a particular country in one part of the world, full lockdown as well in Austria as we see today, other parts of the world are opening up to international flights and travel. You're seeing almost close to pre-pandemic levels of travel within the country in the US building up to Thanksgiving.
This has been the paradox between the economy or the health, essentially. I mean, even the USA still continues to be one of the highest infections there. But then they have vaccinated a large number of people, and they're hoping that they'll have to open it up. And so they are now, as you mentioned, about 20 million people will be coming during the festival season, starting from Thanksgiving on to the Christmas and New Year. So the normalization is going on everywhere along in all the regions, but at the same time, what we are seeing is there is no guarantee that there will not be another wave. I mean, that is something. Fortunately, so far in India, we are not seeing its signs, but you can never say until it's gone.
Certainly, and it remains a tenuous situation, and let's hope that things only improve and people come to their senses and start taking the basic precautions that have always been reiterated. And the simplest thing to do is really to mask up and just observe social distancing norms, and none of this will be necessary, these restrictions. Let's hope that people stick to that and also get vaccinated. Thanks a lot for joining us, Anil. Good night.
Thank you.
All right, now moving on, the Sudanese military blinked and has restored Prime Minister Abdullah Hamdok to his post less than a month after staging the 25th of October coup. Pro-democracy protesters forced the military to strike a deal with Hamdok, where he lead an interim government with some technocrats. But Hamdok's own supporters are not accepting the deal, accusing him of betrayal.
Sudan has been witnessing a turbulent period. A coup took place in the country where the Prime Minister and his cabinet were arrested and the government dissolved. And then comes a new twist. Nearly a month after the unrest, Sudan's military reinstated Prime Minister Abdullah Hamdok on November 21st and announced the release of all political detainees. An agreement was signed with the military leader General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, and according to this deal, Hamdok will lead a new civilian government of technocrats for a transitional period. But the civilian coalition that nominated Hamdok as Prime Minister 2 years ago refused to acknowledge any new deal. Hamdok said that he had agreed to the deal to stop bloodshed. Hundreds of protesters marched towards the presidential palace in Khartoum on Sunday, defying tear gas to reject the deal between Sudan's military leadership and the Prime Minister. A 16-year-old died after being shot in the head by security forces in the Sudanese city of Omdurman. Security forces fired tear gas to disperse protesters as they approached the presidential palace ahead of the announcement of the deal.
We don't have anyone really to represent us. That is why I am asking the resistance committees to speak up on our behalf, because we don't have any politicians otherwise. So they must do the work of politicians. They deliver our demands, they tell the leadership what the people want and give them a time frame. If something is not achieved, we will be back on the streets. The civil disobedience can continue and nothing will keep us away from the streets. Not even death will stop us. During this protest, you can hear us saying that the revolution is for the people, power is for the people, and military should go back to their barracks. This means we want the exclusion of the military from the political process. We want a purely civilian government. The revolution is like a wave that takes out everything that comes in its way. I am a great supporter of Abdullah Hamdok, but there is a limit. The people have spoken. The people have rejected the mediation deal. The people want a complete civilian state. It is Hamdok's duty to listen to the streets. We are against any sort of mediation or any government that Burhan forms. Burhan must remove himself completely from the political scene. Him, Hamiditi and Ibrahim Gaber, the entire council, including the civilians in the Sovereign Council.
Hamdok was placed under house arrest when the military seized power on October 25th, derailing a transition towards democracy agreed after the overthrow of Omar al-Bashir in 2019 that ended his 3 decades of autocratic rule. The military dissolved Hamdok's cabinet and detained a number of civilians who held top positions under the power-sharing deal agreed with the military after Bashir was ousted. World Today Desk, DD India.
And two Latin American nations, Chile and Venezuela, have also witnessed electoral contests around the same time. While Chile has just concluded the first round of the presidential runoff, where hard-right former Congressman Jose Antonio Cast finished on top, Venezuela has seen the ruling Socialist Party of President Nicolas Maduro emerge victorious in a low turnout election. Here's more.
Chile was once known for political stability and economic growth in South America, but it was in 2019 that the image changed when violent anti-government protests began to spread through the country in late 2019. This time, Chile is headed for a polarized presidential election runoff next month. Hard-right former Congressman Jose Antonio Cast finished on top in the first round vote on 21st of November, ahead of leftist lawmaker and former protest leader Gabriel Boric. With nearly 97% of the vote counted, Cast had won 27.94% of ballots versus 25.75% for Boric, with a sizable gap between them and the rest of the field, although both were well short of the majority needed to win outright. More moderate, centre-right candidates performed well, a potential boost for Cast, who appears to be in pole position heading into the 19th of December runoff. There are split voters, one seeking a shake-up of Chile's free market model, and second are those demanding a harder line against crime and immigration. Meanwhile, in Venezuela, National Electoral Council awarded victory to the ruling Socialist Party in 20 governorships and the capital district of Caracas, and 3 to opposition politicians in an initial announcement on Monday following local and regional elections.
The Miranda state, with a participation of 39.53%, Hector Vicente Rodriguez Castro from the United Socialist Party of Venezuela leads the list with a total of 3,96,192 votes for a 48.19%.
Shortly after the first results were published, leftist President Nicolas Maduro celebrated the government's triumph.
Out of the country's 24 federal entities, the Great Patriotic Pool, the revolutionary forces have won 21 states, including Caracas, the capital of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela. We won 21 out of 24 states. A good triumph, a good victory, a good harvest.
Only 41.8% of registered voters turned out to cast their ballot on Sunday, equivalent to some 8.1 million people, said the South American country's top electoral authority's president, Pedro Calzavilla. The results are a setback for the opposition leaders who returned to the fray after boycotting presidential polls in the year 2018 and congressional elections in 2020, arguing that a fair vote was impossible due to rigging and intimidation by violent gangs loyal to Maduro. World Today Desk, DD India.
Now, if we go to North America, in the latest update in the tragic accident at Wisconsin holiday parade where a red SUV tore through the crowd Sunday evening, about 5 people have been confirmed killed and 40 people have been injured, as announced by the police. A statement has been issued by the Waukesha Police Department. The 58th annual holiday parade in downtown Waukesha was underway when the vehicle drove through barricades and sped through the parade route. Earlier, Waukesha Police Chief Daniel Thompson said it was a tragic and chaotic incident that occurred late in the afternoon. Children were among those struck by the car. Waukesha Police Chief Dan Thompson said in all 11 adults and 12 pediatric patients were transported to 6 hospitals in the area. In one video posted on social media, a red SUV appeared to speed towards marchers from behind. Bundled up people huddled on sidewalks as dusk fell. An investigation is now underway. In Canada, basic supplies of water, canned goods and pet food was airlifted to those impacted by record rainfall in parts of British Columbia. The Royal Canadian Air Force packed supplies into helicopters on a private helicopter facility in Abbotsford, which was badly hit by the floods. Military personnel also continue to work to support flood mitigation efforts. Meanwhile, Canada's westernmost province declared a state of emergency after heavy rainfall. The rainfall washed out roads and railways and the lower mainland region from the rest of the country. About 14,000 people were evacuated in several communities in the Pacific province. Let's now get to some other major news in News at a Glance.
El Salvador plans to build the world's first Bitcoin city, funded initially by Bitcoin-backed bonds. President Nayib Bukele said, doubling down on his bet to harness the cryptocurrency to fuel investment in the Central American country. Speaking at an event closing a week-long promotion of Bitcoin in El Salvador, Bukele said the city planned in the eastern region of La Union would get geothermal power from a volcano and not levy any taxes except for value-added tax or VAT. Britain called on Sunday for international action on the issue of medical devices such as oximeters that work better on people with lighter skin, saying the disparities may have cost lives of ethnic minority patients during the COVID-19 pandemic. A gunman has opened fire in Jerusalem's Old City, killing one person and injuring at least 3 others. The gunman, who officials identified as a member of the Palestinian militant group Hamas, was shot dead by Israeli security forces. One civilian shot by the gunman died of his wounds in hospital. Another was seriously hurt and 2 Israeli police officers were wounded. The incident, the second attack in Jerusalem in 4 days, occurred near one of the gates to the flashpoint Al-Aqsa Mosque compound, the third holiest site in Islam. Jews revere the site as the remnant of 2 ancient temples. Spanish Coast Guard rescued 3 ships carrying migrants off the coast of Gran Canaria on Sunday night. The boats carrying respectively 38, 36 and 48 people, including 7 women and a little girl, were intercepted south of the Spanish island. All the migrants were safely transferred to Arguinguin port by the authorities. More than 13,100 migrants have made the perilous journey from West Africa to the Canaries archipelago between January and September 30th this year. According to Spanish government data, more than double the number in the equivalent period in 2020. World Today Desk, DD India.
And let's now talk sports. Well, India sealed a 3-match T20I series against New Zealand, winning all 3 matches. Our next report brings you more on what happened at the Eden Gardens.
In third match of the 3-match T20 international series between India and New Zealand, India not only won the toss in all 3 but sealed victory with a one-sided dominating performance against the Kiwis. In their third match against New Zealand in Kolkata's Eden Gardens, Captain Rohit Sharma won the toss for the 3rd time in a row and decided to bat first in their 3-match series T20 internationals against New Zealand on Sunday, and that itself came as a sign of victory for the Blues. Rohit, along with Ishan Kishan, who was included in the team for this match in place of KL Rahul, gave the Indian team a fast as well as a strong start. Both the batsmen added 69 runs in 6.2 overs while attacking New Zealand's bowling attack strongly. Ishan Kishan returned to the pavilion for the first wicket after scoring 29 off 21 balls. Suryakumar Yadav and Rishabh Pant were not able to play big innings and were soon returned to the pavilion by Santner. However, at the other end, Rohit played fast and completed his half-century. He returned to the pavilion after scoring 56 runs in 31 balls with the help of 5 fours and 3 sixes. After this, Shreyas Iyer and Venkatesh Iyer handled the innings and continued to score runs faster. Shreyas Iyer scored 25 and Venkatesh scored 20. In the last over, Deepak Chahar added 19 runs with the help of 2 fours and a 6, due to which the Indian team was successful in making 184 runs for 7 wickets. Deepak scored an unbeaten 21 off 8 balls. In reply, New Zealand got off to a poor start, chasing the target of 185 runs. Akshar Patel put the visiting team under pressure by sending Mitchell, Mark Chapman and Glenn Phillips to the pavilion early on. New Zealand's team could not make a comeback after losing 3 wickets for 30 runs. Apart from the opener, who was Martin, no Kiwi batsman could stay on the field for a longer time. Guptill scored the highest 51 runs, whereas Tim scored 17 and Ferguson made 14. Apart from this, no other Kiwi batsman could even touch the double figure, and the entire team was all out after scoring 111 runs in 17.2 overs. Akshar Patel took 2 wickets and was adjudged player of the match. And with this, Team India made a clean sweep under the captaincy of Rohit Sharma and sealed the series with a 3-0 victory. Rohit Sharma was adjudged player of the series. Sports Desk, DD India.
So happy hunting ground there for Team India. Now, India is witnessing a boom in sports manufacturing arena, with Prime Minister Modi's vision of Make in India being one of the cornerstones of that boom. From where wrestling mats, Gravelite diversified into making mats for India's traditional sports kabaddi and kho-kho, and recently started making yoga mats as well. Here's more in this report.
In 1980, Kaushal Kishore laid the foundation of one of India's leading manufacturer and distributor of high-performance competitive sports flooring for multiple sports. Fast forward 40 years, the business has grown to make a mark in sports equipment and footwear industry. Thus born Gravelite, India's leading sports manufacturing company, which has made its mark not just in the country but also globally. Over the last 4 decades, Gravolite has made its name in Commonwealth Games, Asian Games, World Championships and nearly 1,000+ national sporting events. Its products have been certified by International Kabaddi, Wrestling Federation of India and the Kho-Kho Federation.
हमारी ग्रेवोलाइट टीम पूरी तरह से इस बात में लगी रहती है, R&D करती रहती है कि किस तरह से हम ना ऐसा मैट बनाएं कि इंजरी फ्री हो, वेस्टेज ना हो, ताकि हमारा पर्यावरण के लिए नुकसान ना हो और लगभग 2025 तक हम अपने सारे प्रोडक्ट बायोडिग्रेडेबल पॉलीमर से पर शिफ्ट करने जा रहे हैं ताकि पर्यावरण के लिए हमारी जो ग्रेवोलाइट इंडिया की जो मैन्युफैक्चरिंग यूनिट है वो सहायक साबित हो, प्रदूषण से मुक्त वातावरण प्रदान करें हम लोग.
Initiatives in different sports mats manufacturing process to use materials which are sustainable, recyclable and resource saving made the company a unique one. The brand has taken a conscious decision to try and put products in the market that are recyclable and supports circular economy. Even the rubber used for cushioning the mat flooring is recycled rubber, thus creating an eco-friendly flooring products.
मैं 100% कॉन्फिडेंट हूँ कि अगले कुछ वर्षों में जब भी ओलंपिक होगा हम लोग एलिजिबल होंगे उस क्वालिटी को compete करने में. ओलंपिक से एक स्टेज पहले होता है वर्ल्ड रेसलिंग चैंपियनशिप. वर्ल्ड रेसलिंग चैंपियनशिप तक मटेरियल हम लोग सप्लाई ऑलरेडी कर चुके हैं. उसके बाद केवल एक सिंगल पड़ाव है हमारे पास ओलंपिक का और मैं, मेरी पूरी टीम, मेरी पूरी फैमिली कॉन्फिडेंट है कि वो दिन दूर नहीं है जब ओलंपिक में इंडिया का ग्रेवोलाइट इंडिया का जो मैट है वो ओलंपिक में लगेगा.
हमारा EVA शीट से रिलेटेड काम है. तो फुटवेयर के अंदर जितनी भी शीट्स इस टाइप की जो कि नॉर्मली मार्केट में अवेलेबल नहीं होती हैं, जो थोड़ी मार्केट से हटके होती हैं, वो हम लोग प्रोड्यूस करते हैं. शीट्स का और फुट स्पोर्ट्स का हमारा लगभग एक जैसा ही होता है. तो ग्रेड वाइज हम लोग इसको डिस्ट्रीब्यूट कर लेते हैं. कुछ पर्टिकुलर ग्रेड हमारे स्पोर्ट्स में चलते हैं, कुछ फुटवेयर में चलते हैं. इंटरनेशनली जो हमारे प्रोडक्ट्स हैं वो मैट्रेसेस जो यूज़ हो रहे हैं वो सारे जितनी भी स्पोर्ट्स चैंपियनशिप हो रही है उसमें जहाँ भी कबड्डी, रेसलिंग और जो अपना खो-खो होगा वो सब मतलब डायरेक्टली इनडायरेक्टली हम लोग वहाँ टच में होंगे.
By the year 2025, the company aims to shift from petroleum polymers to bio-based polymers which are produced from renewable resources like sugarcane and corn, which ultimately benefits the environment. The process for this shift is already underway and being implemented steadily. Tapush Bhattacharya's report, TD India.
Now, the Bangladesh Under-19 cricket team was felicitated at the High Commission of India in Dhaka on Sunday. The Under-19 team will leave for Kolkata on Tuesday to play in the triangular series with the Under-19A and Under-19B teams of India in Kolkata. The matches will start from the 28th of November and the final match of the triangular series will be played on the 7th of December. Welcoming the team members of the Bangladesh Under-19 team, High Commissioner Vikram Doraisamy said that the cricket series between the two countries also strengthens the friendship between the people of the two countries. Member of Parliament and former captain of Bangladesh cricket team, A.M. Naimur Rahman Durjoy, appreciated the gesture of the Indian High Commission in welcoming the team at the Chancery. He highlighted the long and historic friendship between the two countries starting from the Liberation War of Bangladesh in 1971. Football now, and Manchester City manager Pep Guardiola wished sacked Ole Gunnar Solskjaer well after the Norwegian was dismissed as Manchester United boss on Sunday.
I wish him all the best. It was a pleasure to face him. He beat us or beat me more than I wanted, but you know, he knows, like I know, you know, when you are in charge in one team like United, like City, like Tottenham, like Chelsea, Arsenal, Liverpool, you have to win. You have to win, otherwise you are in trouble. So I am still sitting here because we won. Otherwise, will be another person sitting here. Yeah, I wish him all the best, and and hopefully we can, one day see each other again.
Okay, that's not bad. Good wishes can only do good in times that are tough, and that's where I guess Ultras finds himself right now. Now let's talk tennis as well, and Alexander Zverev captured his second ATP finals title after producing a brilliant performance in Sunday's final in Turin in Italy. After eliminating number 1 Novak Djokovic over 3 sets in the semi-finals, Zverev put on a dominant performance in Sunday's finals, beating number 2 Daniil Medvedev 6-4, 6-4. Zverev, the Olympic singles gold medalist in Tokyo, won his tour-leading 6th trophy of the season. The German third seed broke once in each set as he swept US Open winner Medvedev aside in 75 minutes to add to the season-ending crown he won in 2018. Medvedev, the US Open champion, won this event last year and had beaten Zverev 5 consecutive times. Lewis Hamilton took a comfortable win in the Qatar Grand Prix with his remarkable performance to close the gap to Max Verstappen in their fight for the Drivers' World Championship. Hamilton finished the race in 1 hour 24 minutes, 28.471 seconds. Back-to-back wins for the defending and 7-time champion Hamilton in Brazil and Qatar have moved him within 8 points with 2 races left. With this win, Hamilton claimed his 7th season win and 102nd overall. Double world champion Fernando Alonso was 3rd for Renault-owned Alpine, the 40-year-old Spaniard's first podium finish since 2014. Sergio Perez finished 4th to help Red Bull in its push to beat Mercedes for the Constructors' Championship. Chinese tennis star Peng Shuai's video call with the president of the International Olympic Committee does not address or alleviate the Women's Tennis Association's concerns about her well-being. That's what the WTA said on Monday. The whereabouts of Peng, a former doubles world number 1, became a matter of international concern. Chinese tennis star Peng Shuai had a video call on Sunday with the president of the International Olympic Committee and told him she was safe and well. That's what the IOC said after Western governments expressed mounting concern for her well-being. Images of Peng at a children's tournament in Beijing, published earlier in the day, had done little to quell unease following a nearly 3-week public absence after she alleged that a former senior Chinese official had sexually assaulted her. In the statement, the IOC said Peng began the 30-minute call with its President Thomas Bach by thanking the Olympic organization for its concerns. It added that Peng explained that she is safe and well, living at a home in Beijing, but would like to have her privacy respected at this time. Current and former tennis players from Naomi Osaka to Billie Jean King had joined the call seeking to confirm she was safe, using social media hashtag #WhereIsPengShuai. However, the statement posted by Steve Simon, WTA chairman and CEO, says that glad to see the videos released by China state-run media that appear to show Peng Shuai at a restaurant in Beijing. While it is positive to see her, it remains unclear if she is free and able to make decisions and take actions on her own without coercion or external interference. He further said that this video alone is insufficient. Golfing legend Tiger Woods posted a short video of himself taking a practice shot out on a golf course on Sunday. Woods, who has not played in the golf tournament since his car accident, shared a 3-second video on social media with the caption "Making Progress." In the video, Woods is seen taking a swing with a basket filled with golf balls at his side and noticeably wearing a black sleeve on his right leg. And now it's time to get to all the unique updates which really makes all heads turn in Beyond Headlines.
Starting with US, the longest partial lunar eclipse in a millennium dazzled night skies in Washington in an event dubbed the Blood Moon due to its red haze. The partial eclipse, lasting for 3 hours, 28 minutes and 23 seconds, is the longest since 18th February 1440 as per NASA. During the eclipse, which could be seen from the United States, Japan and Chile, up to 99.1% of the moon's disk was within Earth's darkest shadow. The next longest partial eclipse will take place in 2669. Polar bears frolicked in heavy snow in central Canada. Polar bears can be found throughout Canada, Churchill, Manitoba, is recognized as one of the 3 largest polar bear maternity denning areas in the world, according to Canadian Geographic magazine. There are reportedly 25,000 to 30,000 polar bears in the world. 60% of these live in Canada. Arctic white polar bears were labeled a threatened species in 2008 by the United States under the Endangered Species Act due to the ongoing and potential loss of sea ice in the polar bear's natural habitat resulting from climate change. The Champs-Élysées Avenue in Paris was lit up in red for the Christmas season on Sunday in the presence of Paris Mayor Anne Hidalgo and French celebrity singer Clara Luciani. Hundreds turned out for the occasion, contrary to last year when France observed a lockdown against the spread of COVID-19, and only a handful of officials turned up for a ceremony broadcast live on the internet. Considered by the French to be the most beautiful avenue of the world, the Champs-Élysées spreads over nearly 2 kilometers and is lined up with stores and restaurants. South Korea has recently introduced a new health staple in the market, white kimchi juice. Made from fermented cabbage and vegetables and sold in juice packets, the new product was launched at convenience stores across South Korea from Thursday. Park Yoon-kyung, who had to take frequent overseas business trips for her equestrian company, came up with the idea of making pocketable kimchi, a staple Korean cuisine, when she was abroad and missed comfort food from home. Instead of the popular style kimchi with red chili pepper and salted fish, Park chose white kimchi to reduce spiciness and smell, which is one of the oldest type of kimchi, only made of vegetables and salt. 4-month-old kitten Midas was born with 2 sets of ears and a defective jaw due to a recessive genetic mutation. But this does not stop her to become an internet star with over 73,000 followers. Midas was adopted by Canis Dosimisi in the Turkish capital Ankara after being born in a friend's backyard with 6 other siblings. Dosimisi said she and her husband fell in love with her at first sight and decided to take her in, believing her chances of adoption are lower than her siblings due to her unique condition. Midas is currently living with 2 golden retrievers, Suzy and Zeno. Her name comes from the mythological king of Phrygia, who was cursed with donkey ears. World Today Desk, DD India.
And now let's get you a look at what happened on this day in history.
In 1943, on this day, British Prime Minister Winston Churchill, US President Franklin Roosevelt and Chinese nationalist leader Chiang Kai-shek met in Cairo to discuss the war against Japan. On this day in the year 1963, US President John F. Kennedy was assassinated in Dallas, Texas. In 1991, on this day, the UN Security Council picked Egyptian Deputy Prime Minister Boutros Ghali to succeed Javier Perez de Cuellar as UN Secretary General. On this day in the year 2005, Angela Merkel was elected Germany's first woman chancellor by parliament after her Christian Democrats won a national election. On this day in the year 2013, students in Thailand formed world's largest human Christmas tree. World Today Desk, DD India.
That tree was something, wasn't it? And that's all we have at the moment as far as World Today is concerned. But all the latest continues right here on DD India. Keep watching.